What do you want to take on?
Excuse me?
Okay. Let's go.
Business statement.
So we have a business statement from the Leader of the House. Leader of the House?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 25th of November includes Monday, the 25th of November, second reading of the non-domestic rating multipliers in private schools bill. Tuesday, the 26th of November, second reading of the tobacco and vapes bill. Wednesday, the 27th of November, second reading of the finance bill. Thursday, the 28th of November, debate on a motion of the international status of Taiwan, followed by debate on a motion on the freedom of religion in Pakistan. The subjects of these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday, the 29th of November, private members' bills. The provisional business for the week commencing the 2nd of December includes Monday, the 2nd of December, general debate on the Grenfell Tower Inquiry Phase 2 report. Tuesday, the 3rd of December, second reading of the National Insurance Contributions Secondary Class 1 Contributions Bill. Wednesday, the 4th of December, Opposition Day, fourth allotted day, debate on a motion in the name of the official opposition, subject to be announced. Thursday, the 5th of December, business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday, the 6th of December, private members' bills.
Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to associate this side of the House with the comments made about Lord Prescott's death. And I'm also delighted to hear that the House Administration is aiming to win the Autistic Society's Autism Friendly Award. I know all colleagues will want to join me in wishing the House team good luck with that. Madam Deputy Speaker, in last week's episode of this long-running saga, I drew attention to the government's incompetence in having a budget which managed to raise the rate of national insurance, lower the NI threshold and increase the minimum wage all at the same time. I described this as a terrible blow to the retail and hospitality sectors and asked if the Treasury would publish an assessment of the total effect of these measures before they came to the House. Well, I need hardly have bothered, Madam Deputy Speaker, because barely 5 days later, what did we find? A letter from Tesco, Marks & Spencer, Sainsbury's, all the major supermarkets and many of the biggest names in the retail industry highlighting the budget's impact in forcing shop closures and job losses. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, the sad truth is there is nothing surprising here. It was completely obvious to everyone except the government that this unplanned triple whammy was likely to have this effect. So I asked the Leader again, will we see an analysis of its effects when the Finance Bill comes to the House next week or alongside the forthcoming National Insurance Contributions Bill? Otherwise, I think we should turn our attention to energy. The government's proclaimed its intention to make Britain a 100% clean energy producer by 2030. A couple of weeks ago, NESO, the new energy systems operator, published a report on how this might be done. But I must say, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm feeling a degree of embarrassment. I'd been under the impression that the Secretary of State for Energy was a slightly clownish figure, unable to eat a bacon sandwich without causing an international incident, with a political style closely modelled on that of Wallace and Gromit. Actually, Madam Deputy Speaker, I was quite wrong. In fact, like the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the Secretary of State may need to update his CV. I now realise that he's in fact a heroic figure, the Titan of transition. In fact, I would go further. The Energy Secretary is a modern Clark Kent, whose slightly bumbling comedic exterior is merely a disguise concealing a range of astonishing superpowers. Think of what he will have to achieve if the UK is, as he promises, to have entirely carbon-free energy in just over 5 years' time. He'll have to build twice as many pylons and cables in that 5 years as we've built in the last 10. He'll have to get all this transmission infrastructure built on time and according to the reshape the planning rules, or the taxpayer will be forced to pay for wind turbines that stand idle. Like the Greek god Aeolus, this great baron of breeze will need to make sure the winds blow and contract as much offshore wind capacity in the next 2 years as in the last 6 combined. And he'll need to make sure the global price of carbon doubles or triples just to make the sums add up. And this is before one considers the effects of unexpected inflation, skills shortages, dependency on foreign energy technologies, intermittency of supply. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Meanwhile, his plans for small modular reactors have been delayed while the Energy Secretary plunges ahead with his plans to cut off gas turbines and leave us dangerously reliant on expensive foreign energy imports. Madam Deputy Speaker, these plans are not simply heroic, they are fanciful, they are magical thinking. And what is worse, they are likely to be ruinously expensive both for the taxpayer and the electricity user. Little wonder that top business and union leaders have come together to describe them as, I quote, just not feasible and, quote, impossible. We've been here before in the three-day week of the 1970s, Madam Deputy Speaker, and the result was blackouts and energy rationing. Is that what we should expect now? Again, this is the rub. Power reveals. What we are seeing is not merely a lack of competence. We are seeing an Energy Secretary who has still not made any statement on the NISO report that I quoted from. He is deliberately refusing to account for his actions to this House on this absolutely foundational matter, and he is holding the Commons in contempt. So I ask the Leader of the House, when can we expect a statement from the Energy Secretary on the NISO report? When will he be forced to come to the dispatch box to explain and defend this folly?
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. First of all, can I join Mr Speaker and others in marking the sad loss of John Prescott. He was a true legend. He was one of the best campaigners of our movement. He put the issues of climate change and real, meaningful levelling up at the top of the political agenda long before they were fashionable. He was groundbreaking, huge fun, and he'll be greatly missed, and we send our condolences to Pauline and the whole family. And as Mr Speaker said earlier, there will be an opportunity to pay tributes next week. I'm sure the whole House will also join me in marking Parliament Week, where we open our doors on the way we work in this place. And today is Ask Her to Stand Day, a day to encourage more women to seek elected office. Can I take this opportunity, Madam Deputy Speaker, to point the House to a motion I've tabled today, which makes some important changes to the proxy votes for members. One of my priorities as Leader of the House is about making Parliament more family-friendly. We now have more women than ever in this place, more parents of small children and caring responsibilities, and more disabled members. We need to change the way we do things to reflect the times. I've asked the Procedures Committee to continue their wider review of the proxy vote system, and the Modernisation Committee will consider these issues in due course. However, I have heard from members that the current system hasn't met some immediate needs. So I am extending the childbirth, miscarriage or baby loss proxy to explicitly cover complications during pregnancy or ongoing fertility treatment. Under this scheme, reasons for proxies remain confidential and are self-certified, requiring no onerous paperwork. And I'm making the default for all proxies 7 months, and I hope the whole House will welcome this. He raises a number of issues, but I mean, honestly, I have to say, I am losing track of the opposition's arguments in these areas. They attack our budget measures, yet they support all the investment. They don't like our decisions, yet they took many of the same ones in government. They ducked the difficult issues, yet criticise us for dealing with them. And yes, we've had to make some big choices, but we do stand by them, because we are on the side of ordinary people, on the side of NHS and public services, and we are operating in the interests of economic stability, unlike his party did, I'm afraid. And on the impact of the budget, we will see that over time, but the party opposite really do have to decide whether they support the investment going in, whether they support the extra spending going into our public services, or whether they don't want to see any of that at all and they're just against all of that support. I mean, I've got to say, I mean, picking on the Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero. There is not a more accomplished member of the Cabinet who is driving his agenda forward. He is forthcoming to this House on many, many occasions, and I have to say, on every occasion he appears in this House, he absolutely wipes the floor with his opponent, because they are yet again on the wrong side of history. Yes, we do have a very ambitious mission to become a clean energy superpower by 2030, a mission we are driving forward. It's absolutely vital that we do that. And that does mean, yes, that does mean taking on some of the inherent issues that they ducked around our infrastructure, the grid, our planning laws, getting the investment where it's needed, and we're announcing that all the time, unlocking new power supplies, which we're doing in nuclear, solar, hydrogen and elsewhere, establishing Great British Energy, which is now well underway to ensure that we have got homegrown production, much needed. Taken together, they will lower bills, create new jobs and give us the energy security that his government failed to give us. And I've got to say, honestly, isn't the truth that they are just becoming the political opportunists? I mean, it really is. They spent years in government ducking the difficult decisions, leaving a huge black hole and a big mess for us to clean up. Public services were on their knees. Strike action costing £15 billion in lost productivity. Pay deals on ministers' desks with not a penny accounted for them, and not a single penny set aside for the compensation schemes. The reserves spent 3 times over, and inflation 11% under their watch. And living standards fell for the first time in our history under the party opposite. And now they want their cake and they want to eat it at the same time. All the benefits from the budget, but not the hard calls needed to pay for it. They've gone, I'm afraid, Madam Deputy Speaker, in a few short weeks from the party of government to the party of protest.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And as my right honourable friend has just mentioned, in so many ways illustrated so many aspects of the mess that this government has inherited from the last, whether it be longer waiting lists, our crumbling schools, our failing economy, or whatever. But you know, Madam Deputy Speaker, the mess is nowhere more visible than on the A46 in Warwickshire, between Coventry and Stratford, which actually adjoins my constituency, where last month, October, 12 tonnes of rubbish were collected from the roadside. That's because there was no clearing up done for many years. So yet another example of the mess being left behind. So can we have a debate in government time, not just on the potholes, but the mess that this government has left on the state of our roads?
Leader of the House. Well, what better symbol of the mess that we've inherited than all the mess left on the A46 in his constituency? And he raises a really important issue, and we are committed to tackling the plague of fly tipping and vandals who are creating a mess in our communities. And that's one of the reasons that we're cracking down on antisocial behaviour and introducing respect orders so that those who are responsible can clean up their own mess.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Marie Goldman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd also like to pay my respects to Lord Prescott. While we didn't serve in this place at the same time, it's impossible to have followed British politics over the past few decades without acknowledging the enormous influence he had over it. I'd also like to extend my condolences to his friends and family. Madam Deputy Speaker, I was pleased to note the constructive approach taken in the other place regarding rail passenger services, including commitments Liberal Democrats secured for making delivering improvements and maintaining high standards of improvement a crucial part of the government's agenda. Earlier this week, I received an email from Essex and Herts Air Ambulance, a registered charity that provides helicopter emergency medical services for the critically ill and injured of Essex, Hertfordshire and surrounding areas. In the last financial year alone, they attended 2,635 missions. It costs in excess of £1 million every month to keep the service operational and cover all charitable costs. This would not be possible without the goodwill of people in Essex and Hertfordshire. But the recent changes to employers' national insurance will cost the charity an additional £100,000 per year. Will the Leader of the House grant a debate in government time on how the impact of the rise in employers' national insurance can be mitigated specifically for the charitable sector, recognising the vital, sometimes life-saving role that this sector plays in all of our communities?
Well, can I first of all thank her for her kind words about John Prescott, and can I also thank her and her party in supporting the final stages of the rail franchising bill, which completed all its stages in both houses the other evening, making it one of the first bills to become an act of this Labour government. And as she said, we were already seeing increased reliability on our rail services, much needed increased reliability as a result of that bill coming forward. So can I thank her for that? She raises a really important point, and can I also pay my thanks to those who support the air ambulance service in Essex and across her constituency. As she knows, that the Health Secretary is looking at how NHS funding, the massive increase that we've seen as a thanks to this budget that he's seen in NHS spending, we're looking at how that can be used to support other health charities and health services, and there will be an update to this House soon.
Dawn Butler.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I join with other members of the House to send my condolences to the Prescott family? I used to sit with John when we used to do the PM Keys prep, and I now wish I'd taken notes of all the rebuttals and the lines that didn't make the cut, because I feel that would make one hell of a book now. Leader of the House, my constituents in Brent East, one of the most diverse constituencies in the UK, deserve a fair pay for a fair day's work. Yesterday was Equal Pay Day, which was 2 days earlier than normal, which means that things are getting worse. Will the Leader of the House make time and government time to have this debate?
Yeah. Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising that? Yesterday was indeed Equal Pay Day, and for those who don't know, that's the day on average where women actually stop earning any money because they've earned their full year's pay earlier than everybody else in that year. It's a fantastic campaign organised by the Fawcett Society, who I met with earlier this week, and I'm proud that this government has introduced the Employment Rights Bill, which will support women in work and support women to get a pay rise as well. But I'm sure this would make a really good topic for maybe a backbench business debate, which we're about to hear about.
Chair of the Backbench Business Committee, Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I thank the Leader for announcing the business in the Chamber for next week on backbench business. The following week, on Thursday the 5th of December, which she's kindly announced, the business will be detained British nationals abroad, quite a topical subject given the Prime Minister's announcements today, and also improving public transport. For those here with transport questions, you'll know why that's topical. I'd be grateful if the Leader will ensure we get Thursday the 12th of December in the Chamber as well, because we have a queue of debates that need to be held in the Chamber, and an early warning that Thursday the 19th of December will be the annual pre-Christmas adjournment debate. In addition to the business that the Leader announced for the Chamber for next week, in Westminster Hall there'll be a full 3-hour debate on the fishing industry next week. And with your permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, on Tuesday the 3rd there'll be a debate on domestic production of critical minerals. And on Thursday there will be a debate on pelvic mesh and the Cumberledge Review. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, on Sunday I was proud to be at the Cenotaph, where more than 3,000 members of the Association of Jewish Ex-Servicemen and Women paraded to commemorate those that gave their lives in the Great War, World War II and subsequent conflicts. I'm also grateful that Lord Coker was there on behalf of the government to present to lay a wreath demonstrating the government's commitment to that movement. Will the Leader then join with me in congratulating Ajax, the CST, the police, the security services for enabling Ajax to hold this parade, and also commemorate all those that have given their lives in the service of this country.
Well, can I thank him for announcing all of those debates. They sound like they will ones that will attract a great deal of attention, and I know that many of the new members will be really keen to stay here right till the very end for the adjournment debate before the Christmas recess, which we're not looking forward to at all, of course, because we're desperate to be here as long as possible. But I absolutely would join him in the tribute that he's paid to all that the Jewish community did for this country and every other country in their contribution during the Second World War and indeed many other conflicts since, and pay tribute to Ajax, CST, the police and others for keeping the community safe and enabling them to continue to pay their respects in this way.
Liz Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, tragically, in 2020, Andrew Rowland in my constituency lost his life after getting into the car of a driver who was underage, uninsured and did not hold a driving licence. Yet the driver was still able to purchase a vehicle without proof of ID or relevant insurance or experience. This event was truly heartbreaking for Andrew's family and friends. So can we have a debate in government time on how we can prevent accidents and situations like this happening again?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I express my deepest sympathies for this tragic case and all of those who've been affected by it, and the issue of people acquiring vehicles and driving vehicles without insurance or driving licences does get raised in this House on many occasions. So I will ensure that the matter is raised with the Secretary of State for Transport and she gets a full reply, but I'm sure it would make a good topic for a debate as well.
Sir Julian.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I say to the Leader of the House how impressed I've been with the courteous and assiduous way in which she sends those of us who have asked business questions for statements or debates, copies of the letters that she sends to the appropriate departments. She could impress me even more if she could institute a requirement for the ministers who receive those letters to have to respond to them, so that she could then send us some feedback on why they intend to give us the debates or the statements that we request, or if not, why not?
Needed to answer in her own time. It's very important to get Sir Julian's respect. So.
Sorry, I've got the end of a horrible cough. Can I thank him for his kind words? And it is something that's very important to me that members in this House do get responses from ministers. And can I thank my fantastic civil service team for ensuring that all of those responses are sent. I do get replies from some ministers to those letters, and those that don't are being very strongly noted. So I will follow up and ensure I do have my own little internal league table, but it is very important to me that members who raise issues with me or indeed in this House do get a thorough response from ministers, and I shall certainly do that.
Chris Murray.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Communities across the country are really badly affected when local banks close, like the Bank of Scotland on Portobello High Street. It's huge impacts for those who are digitally excluded and for access to cash. The problem is communities are then told they can bank at the local post office, but we're finding post offices closing as well, like Waverley in my constituency. Will the Leader of the House allow a debate in government time so we can discuss these serious issues affecting high streets across the country?
Well, he raises a really important issue that's been raised many times, but particularly in the last couple of weeks, as we've heard about possible further closures in the post office sector. The post office did actually contact me after last business question to make clear that no decisions have actually been made, but he's absolutely right to continue to raise these issues on behalf of his constituency, because we do need banking hubs in our communities, and the post office is a vital partner in delivering those.
Richard Holden.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, Ford announced that they're pulling 4,000 jobs across Europe, including 800 in the UK, mostly in Essex. On top of this, Nissan has announced big job cuts in the UK, and there's also a concern from the workers at my local New Holland tractor plant in Basildon as well about the impact of the family farm tax is actually going to have on them. In terms of UK car manufacturing, with VED now going up on ICE vehicles and EVs, a lack of demand for EVs and infrastructure for them, and that national insurance hit on UK business, could we have a debate in government time on government policy and particularly the impact that it's having on the UK automotive and vehicle manufacturing sectors?
Yeah.
Well, can I thank him for raising the issues around decisions being made by Ford in his constituency. As he knows, this is a Europe-wide decision taken for commercial reasons, but we have asked the company to urgently share its plans so that we can think about the impacts that it has on the UK. I mean, I don't agree with his analysis about this government's policies in relation to our manufacturing industry. We've now got a comprehensive industrial strategy for the long term, something that was occasionally appeared under his government but was more recently completely deleted. And for the first time in a long time, our industrial partners now feel they have a long-term partnership with a government that's on their side, and that's, I'm afraid, the situation.
Emma Foody.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This week, the Home Secretary remarked on her shock when taking office at how little the Home Office had been doing under the previous government to prevent violence against women and girls. This week in my constituency, local women's running group These Girls Can Run is partnering with the Rising Sun Country Park's Park Run for their annual takeover to mark White Ribbon Day. Can we have a debate on how we challenge and change attitudes to violence against women and girls and domestic abuse?
Leader.
My cold has just decided to come right fully on at this moment in time. She raises a really important issue, and she'll know that it's White Ribbon Day next week, which is a really important opportunity for us to continue to highlight the issues facing women and girls against violence. She will know this is a top priority for not just this government, but actually the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary. We want to halve violence against women and girls over 10 years, which is a hugely ambitious mission, but one that we're determined to meet.
Wera, Hobhouse.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I add my condolences to the family and friend of Lord Prescott? I was occasionally in the same room as John Prescott when I was Councillor in the North, and he was indeed pugnacious and fun, even if you happen to be a target of his remarks. Madam Deputy Speaker, Dorothy House and many charities in my constituency have contacted me with concerns since the increase in national insurance contributions. To cover the extra costs, they will need to either reduce services or lay off staff, and some charities may even go under. Can I add to the call of my friend, the Honourable Member for Chelmsford's call, that we get an urgent statement from the Chancellor of how the third sector will be supported in order to continue to provide the same level of services?
Ida.
Well, can I thank you for that question? And further to the reply that I gave a few moments ago, she will know that our tax regime for charities in this country are the most generous anywhere in the world, worth just over £6 billion in the last year. But we do hear what she and others are saying, and we will continue to support charities in the way that we can. And she will note that Treasury questions, I think, are in early December, and she might want to raise those issues with the Chancellor then.
Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Almost 1 in 5 of my constituents work in the freight and logistics industry. These hard-working people deliver Christmas. On Tuesday, I launched a report with the RHA and the Freight and Logistics All-Party Parliamentary Group, which provided shocking revelations into the frequency and seriousness of freight crime, including at crime hotspots like Corley Services in my constituency of North Warwickshire and Bedworth. The true cost of freight crime exceeds £1 billion. So can the Leader of the House facilitate a debate in government time to consider how we tackle freight crime and keep our drivers safe?
Can I join her in paying tribute to our road haulage community? We have in recent times really understood the value and the contribution that they make to keeping our country going and keeping our economy going, and she's absolutely right to raise the issues that the Road Haulage Association are raising with her about crime and haulage crime. Home Office questions are next week. She might want to raise those important matters then.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the House will have surely seen the thousands of hard-working farmers who came to Whitehall on Tuesday to protest against the cruel family farm tax. Whilst at COP29, the Prime Minister tried to defend his policy by quoting BBC Verify. BBC Verify have now deleted their comment supporting the government. Likewise, The Telegraph have reported this week that a Treasury source has told them no impact assessment will be published on the family farm tax until just before the next budget. So, can the Leader of the House get the Chancellor to come to that dispatch box so we can have an informed debate about the actual impact the family farm tax is going to have for all members of this House, including her own backbenchers representing rural seats, so they can decide whether they stand with party or farmers?
Leader.
We're absolutely clear, and the figures are absolutely clear, because the figures are based on actual claims in recent years of agricultural property relief. And those figures from actual claims in recent years show that around 3/4 of claims would be unaffected by the changes that we've made today. And I do find it, I mean, does the party opposite accept the principle that 40% of agricultural tax relief goes to the top 7% of land value ownership? Do they think that is a fair system going forward? Is it fair to young farmers trying to get on the system? And are they in support of the additional £6 billion that we put into farming as a result of this budget? Because they can't support the measures going in if they don't support the measures needed to raise the investment in the first place.
Torquil Crichton.
Can I echo and add my condolences to the family of the late Lord John Prescott? One man, 2 Jags, 3 election wins. And while COP29 in faraway Baku may make the environmental problems seem far away too, climate change is very real. Rising tides mean that the legendary beach runway on the Isle of Barra has limited use now. Storm surges regularly cut off Ballershire from neighbouring North Uist, and the climate change also means that crofters in my constituency overwinter their stock on the mainland now. Can the Leader of the House find some government time for a debate on how climate change affects our coastal communities?
Leader.
Well, can I thank him for raising that? And indeed, John Prescott really was at the vanguard of these issues, and it was thanks to him that Kyoto Agreement was agreed all of those years ago, and how foresighted he was of the need for international collective agreement to tackle climate change, a legacy that this government is really proud to take forward at COP as we are at the moment. And he's right to identify the issues that it raises for his constituency, for which he's a great champion. And I'm sure they would make a really good topic for a debate.
Andrew Rosendale.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Leader of the House will know that the Queen's Hospital is based in Romford. It serves the boroughs of Barking and Dagenham, Havering and Redbridge. I was very proud to visit the hospital recently to see the amazing work they do in dealing with people that suffer from a stroke, and they deal with people from a huge radius, from the Midlands all the way down to the South East, round the clock. But the one problem with our local hospital is that the A&E is completely overstretched. There are people waiting in trolleys, sometimes for 24 hours. This is unacceptable. Will she arrange for the Minister responsible for hospitals to visit Queen's Hospital with me, but also arrange in government time a discussion, debate in the House on this vital topic that really does affect my constituents?
Well, can I thank him for raising the issues facing Queen's Hospital in his constituency and the A&E department in particular. My husband is an A&E consultant, so I hear most evenings of the crisis facing our accident and emergency departments, a crisis that has exponentially increased over the last 14 years, I'm sorry to say, and he and other doctors working in the front line would contrast that starkly with the last Labour government and the support that accident and emergency had there. So I'm sure that the Health Secretary would be delighted to debate these issues with him and the party opposite, because I think A&E really does need some serious investment, and that's what this government is all about.
Kirith Entwistle.
Announcements on recent changes to the proxy voting scheme. And as a member of the House Modernisation Committee, could I ask if we could have a debate on government time about further changes to the procedures and working practices of this House so that we can create a more accessible and family-friendly culture?
Leader.
Well, can I thank her for all her fantastic work on the Modernisation Committee. She's been a really good member of it. In fact, every member of it has been, including some of the members opposite as well, all of the members opposite and the shadow leader, all of the members opposite who are on it have been very consensual and working towards that endeavour. The proxy votings that I've just announced will be on the order paper for consideration by the House next week, and I hope that we can have many opportunities to discuss some of these issues in the coming months.
John Glenn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Following the budget, Matthew Clover from Salisbury Orthodontics wrote to me, and he said that the recent budget will hit dental care across the constituency. He writes that dental practices are small businesses, and the cumulative changes to national insurance and the national minimum wage will add tens of thousands to the wage bills of a typical practice. The budget brings a huge increase in overheads but offers nothing by way of support. Could I ask the Leader of the House when we could have a statement from the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care about what ameliorating interventions will come to assist dentists who are trying to do their best to fulfil their mandate on NHS dentistry as well as other work?
Leader.
Well, he's right, and dentistry gets raised a lot with me in business questions, because I have to say again, I know you might not like to hear it, but the woeful inheritance that we've got when it comes to NHS dentists, both accessibility and provision, is really quite poor in many communities, and that's why we are committed to an extra 800,000 dental appointments, and we will work closely with the sector to transform NHS dental care in this country. And as I've previously said, the Health Secretary will be coming forward to this House about how he will use his budgets to support social care, dentists and others who've been affected by some of the changes in the budget.
Chris Bloor.
Chairman. The Leader of the House will remember she brought the Labour Party battle bus to the Redditch constituency, but thankfully she didn't need to hit any of the voters when she met them. But she will know that tempers are frayed in Redditch right now because of the proposed closure of our post office. The Redditch Standard and its editor Tristan Harris is leading the campaign to persuade the post office to change their mind. However, the post office are refusing to meet us. Perhaps she might suggest to them that if there are no decisions made on closures, they should be happy to meet local MPs and campaign groups.
Leader.
Well, he absolutely should be standing steadfastly at the front of the campaign to save his local post office, because these are vital services for constituencies like Redditch, and I know that the post office closely followed much of what I said in business question last week, so hopefully they will have heard what he said today. But as I said last week, the post office is in need of serious culture change, and it has not been fit for purpose for some time, and I really don't see the case for closing Crown post offices as part of that change.
Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The shocking arrest of Alison Pearson, the Telegraph journalist, has caused outrage, as the Leader of the House knows, most recently expressed by her distinguished backbench colleague, the Honourable Member for Blackley and Middleton South. So will the Leader of the House arrange for the Home Secretary to come to this House and address this attack on free speech, which is wider and deeper than Alison Pearson's arrest? The Director of Public Prosecution has said that he has no idea what 9 crime hate incidents are and had to look them up in the light of her arrest, and yet 11,600 of them are being recorded. Will the House understand that far from the antithesis of a civilised society, the right to alarm, disturb and, yes, to offend is the essence of an open society? And, Madam Deputy Speaker, if I may say so, if I didn't alarm, disturb and offend every Maoist, Marxist, Bolshevik and belligerent Islamist, I'd feel I failed.
Can I thank him for that question? I think that the offences that he's talking about were actually introduced by the then government at the time, a couple of years ago, by the gentleman that is now the shadow Home Secretary, not by the current government. But look, I mean, he's absolutely right to we have to consider the balance of free speech alongside the balance to protect people who are suffering from the wrong end of abuse, mis and disinformation online, which we saw over the summer can cause real damage in our communities if it's left unchecked. And that balance is one that I'm sure the police and others are grappling with on a daily basis.
Christine Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I also offer my condolences to the family of Lord Prescott. I can say that he was a true inspiration and example to those of us from ordinary working class backgrounds. Following on from the point raised by my honourable friend, the member for Edinburgh East and Musselburgh, last week we saw the closure of the Royal Bank of Scotland in Bathgate, leaving the town with one remaining bank, the Bank of Scotland, and that is due to close next June, along with the Bank of Scotland in Linlithgow. And across the UK, we're seeing high streets and communities losing their bank branches. Will the Leader of the House make a statement as to the steps that are being taken to ensure that communities and businesses are not being left behind?
Well, can I thank her for that and her words about John Prescott? I know that there are many people here today as members of this House because of the encouragement and inspiration that they got from John Prescott himself. And she raises, again, it is an issue that gets raised here regularly about access to cash, the need for vital banking and post office services on our high street. The chairman of the Backbench Business Committee is still in his place, and I'm sure that were colleagues to come together on these matters, we really could get a very good and robust debate about the need for the banking hubs which this government is committed to rolling out.
Sir Gavin Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A week on Saturday, we've got Small Business Saturday. And in my constituency, there's so many wonderful places to go and visit, whether it's in Stone, Great Worley, Penkridge, Brood. I could list them all. And Madam Deputy Speaker, you would always be welcome to visit yourself. But they are worried, incredibly worried, so many businesses, and they've been contacting me since the budget, not just about the increases in national insurance, not just about the cumulative impact of the changes of employment rights and increases in national minimum wage, but they're also now incredibly concerned about the scrapping of business inheritance tax reliefs. This is going to stop them being able to pass their businesses down to their children. Can we have an urgent debate in government time about the cumulative impact of all these changes are having on so many private businesses?
Well, can I thank him for raising that, which ahead of Small Business Saturday. But I do have to gently say to the honourable gentleman, as he was a minister in the previous government, that the previous government did increase national insurance contributions, not just on businesses but on workers as well. They did so at a time when inflation was at almost record highs at 9%. It's funny that they didn't seem to worry about that at the time. They also, and I supported them in doing so, increased the minimum wage on many occasions in their time in office, and I'm proud that this government is giving a pay rise to some of the lowest in our society and our economy. There are changes we're bringing in to business rate reform, which I think will support many of our small businesses on the high street as well. But he might want to raise, there are Treasury questions coming up, and I'm sure he'll want to raise the issues of the business tax relief reform as well with the Treasury Minister.
Rachel Blake.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In cities of London and Westminster, communities are really suffering with the increasing number of short-term lets. They realise that this is taking up more time from local authorities to clean up mess, and it's also eroding the availability of genuinely affordable homes. Landlords are sometimes struggling to evict tenants who are illegally subletting into the short-term let tenure. Can the Leader of the House ask the Minister to update us on their plans to tackle the rise in short-term lets? This is something that affects not just the West End but also communities across the country. I believe we need to see the registration scheme come forward quickly alongside licensing and the ability of local authorities to plan for these short-term lets.
Well, this is a really big issue in constituencies like mine as well, in city centre and rural members too. And that's why we are committed, as she says, to introducing the registration scheme for short-term lets, and we will be removing the furnished holiday lets tax incentive that short-term let owners have had recently as well, and they will be introduced as soon as is possible, and I'll make sure that the House is updated on that. And we have also announced a 2% increase to the higher rates of stamp duty to these types of properties. I hope taken together they will reduce the blight of short-term lets on many of our constituents.
Ellie Chowns. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. First of all, I'd like to thank the Leader of the House for mentioning Ask Her to Stand Day, because despite the progress that has been made in women's representation in politics, it's shocking that we're still less than where we should be in terms of having a 50-50 Parliament and full representation at all levels. It's already been mentioned this morning that Monday is White Ribbon Day, a crucial day for raising awareness of the terrible problem of male violence against women and girls. And the case of Harshi Tabrella that's come to light in this last week just highlights how vital this work is. West Mercia Rape and Sexual Abuse Support Centre has been in touch with me this week to highlight the fact that funding in this area is still not sufficient, and it's not evenly distributed. It's not fairly distributed according to need and to population. So although we have a Westminster Hall debate next week, does the Leader of the House not agree with me? This issue is so important. It needs to be debated in government time. Can we have that debate? Thank you.
Well, can I thank her for raising the White Ribbon Day next week and the 50-50 Parliament. Other members have actually, calls that I think are really powerful, have called for Parliament to become accredited as part of the White Ribbon campaign. I'm sure that's something that she will want to support. She's absolutely right that the funding of many of the rape centres and other shelters and many of the charities and support centres available for women fleeing domestic violence or having had the horror of being raped are really woeful and poor. We have increased some of the supports in the recent budget going to these vital services, and I know with the introduction of some future legislation there will be plenty of time to discuss some of these issues.
Josh Fenton-Glynn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. One issue that's a constant theme of my casework inbox is rogue private parking companies and their intimidating behaviour. In fact, just this month, my constituency officers returned over £200 worth of fines back to my constituents. Could the honourable member advise me as to the best possible way to get this on the record and get the government to take some action on this behaviour?
Well, I know in the last Parliament we had many debates on the rogue private parking enforcement companies. I'm sure that the Backbench Business Committee would consider them or possibly apply for an adjournment debate. I think they would be well attended.
Damien Hines.
We have a debate in government time on water recycling projects. The project at Havant Thicket is obviously of great significance to my constituents and those of my honourable friend for Havant, but it's also of national significance because this is a technology novel to the UK, and I think it's important that this House has the opportunity to debate the aspects around safety, the environment and public confidence.
Leader.
Well, he raises what sounds like a really important technology, and we really need to make a lot more of the circular economy. And I know that this is, whether it's water or other aspects, this is a real priority for the Secretary of State, for DEFRA, who will be here for questions soon, but I will certainly consider a future debate.
Anna Geldard.
Madam Deputy Speaker, as we've heard, post office closures threaten to cut off essential services, particularly in rural areas such as mine, and could have a significant impact on South East Cornwall. Can the Leader of the House give an indication of when we might expect space in government time to debate post office, the importance of the post office, including the Liskeard branch in my constituency?
Well, as it was last week, Madam Deputy Speaker, you'll remember, these proposed closures of post offices are a massive point of concern for many members like her across this House, and I would encourage any member whose constituency is affected by a proposed closure of their Crown Post Office to take a leadership role in that campaign, to raise them here in the House. I will continue to do so, and I really do think there would be a lot of support for a debate on the future of our post office services were people to club together to put one forward.
Martin Vickers, if he's able.
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week at my surgery in Barton-on-Humber, two constituents came to me. Who, they were parents of a young man who died suddenly from a cardiac arrest. And they pointed out to me that between 12 and 20 young people under 35 die in similar undiagnosed circumstances each week. Screening would play a major part in dealing with these tragic situations. Could the Leader find time for a debate in government time when we can look at the whole screening programme, which would affect so many serious diseases?
Leader.
Well, that is a shocking statistic that his constituents have shared with him about the effect of cardiac arrests on young people, and he and they are absolutely right that screening and really getting a preventative health programme into our communities is vital if we're to address some of these issues and make sure that people don't die or suffer unnecessarily from these sorts of diseases, and that's what this government is committed to doing.
Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'd like to associate myself with the condolences paid to Lord Prescott. He was a true giant of our movement. Last week, over 450 people from across Renfrewshire gathered for the annual Rocco Awards. This was the 20th such celebration of our businesses across Renfrewshire, run by the Renfrewshire Chambers of Commerce. Can my right honourable friend assure businesses in my community of this government's support, and will she join with me in congratulating all of the winners of this year's Rocco Awards, including Renfrewshire's favourite business, the Paisley Pie Company, which resides in my constituency of Paisley and Renfrewshire South?
Leader. Well, one of the great joys of my job is to get to hear about all the great catering outlets in colleagues' constituencies, and I wish I could visit them all, actually. But certainly the pie company that she describes sounds like a particularly good one, and I join her in congratulating them, and also just express that this government continues to support businesses like those in her constituency and all of those who are involved in the Rocco Awards.
I'm sure she'll agree with me. We'll happily take some samples here. Yeah. Wendy Morton.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In a week when we've seen temperatures plummet to below zero, leaving pensioners in my constituency and across the country worrying about heating their homes, the DWP has finally issued its impact assessment on this government's disgraceful decision to scrap the winter fuel payment. So can we have a statement, please, on why the Chancellor took the decision to cut the winter fuel payment without knowing all of the facts about pensioner fuel poverty?
Yeah. Well, she'll be aware that the impact assessment that was published didn't take into account, hasn't been able to take into account all the mitigations that this government has also put in place. We've seen a 150% increase in those claiming pension credit support, something that her government completely failed to do. We have got the £150 warm homes discount. And I know from my own area that the £1 billion household support budget is now directly being paid to those on council tax support, so just above the threshold for pensioner credit. So I'm really not clear whether the party opposite supports means testing or doesn't, because they have a long history of doing that themselves, both with child benefit and then their own manifesto in 2017, which called for the means testing of the winter fuel payment.
Alistair Strathern.
Madam Deputy Speaker, residents in Sheffield are fed up with the dire pothole-ridden state of Old Bridge Way. A public highway in all but legal reality, this unadopted road is now ownerless after the previous private owner transferred it to a new company it promptly liquidated, thereby sidestepping any repair obligations for the road. Now, I understand this may not be the most glamorous backdrop to suggest a constituency visit, but instead, would the Leader of the House potentially back my campaign calling on CBC to act on this road? And could we have a statement from the Secretary of State for Transport about how local authorities can be supported to adopt roads at such crucial parts of the public highway?
Leader. Well, this is a really important matter for his constituents, and so he's absolutely right, as the diligent campaigner that he is, to continue to raise these issues in this House. And I will make sure that the relevant minister gives him a substantive reply that he needs on this matter.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Right Honourable Lady will be aware that it's now some considerable time since cannabis was legalised for medicinal use, but the number of people who have been able to obtain an NHS prescription for medical cannabis is minuscule. So will she bring forward a debate in government time so that we can discuss what are the obstacles to people obtaining these prescriptions, particularly children with severe conditions?
Leader. Well, I know he's campaigned on these issues for a long time, and he's absolutely right to raise them. I'm sitting next to another campaigner on medicinal cannabis use as well. I shall certainly make sure that the Minister gives him a sort of full response about progress in making sure that this is a good, we know this is a good treatment, that it's available to children and those that desperately need it.
Jenny Riddell Carpenter.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This week, shipping company Maersk announced that it will be diverting operations away from Felixstowe in my constituency and towards London Gateway. This comes after years of complacency towards investing in the right transport infrastructure that surrounds Suffolk Coastal and the eastern region, despite the port of Felixstowe being the busiest and largest port in the UK. I wrote to the Secretary of State this week setting out the urgent need to invest in transport infrastructure. Could we have a debate in government time to consider the future of rail and road investment in the UK?
Leader.
Well, she is absolutely right to raise the issues facing Felixstowe in her constituency, and she's also spot on when she says that linking our ports with our rail and road infrastructure so that we can really take advantage of our unique aspects here as a trading nation, as an island nation, are absolutely right, and I will make sure the Secretary of State responds to her letter forthwith.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. For those who follow international violations of freedom of religion or belief will note the tragic death last week of Shahrir Rakeen, a 16-year-old Bangladeshi who was very brutally assaulted during extremist attacks against Ahmadiyya Muslims on August the 5th. During those attacks, Rakeen was beaten in the head with lethal weapons in efforts to try and save his life. He was treated in several hospitals but passed away on November the 8th. The heartbreaking case illustrates the importance of impressing upon the government of Bangladesh its responsibility to provide effective protection and freedom of religious practice to Ahmadis and other persecuted religious minorities. So will the Leader of the House join me in raising concern about these egregious violations of the freedom of religion or belief? And will the Right Honourable Lady ask the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office to revisit this issue with counterparts in Bangladesh? Thank you so much.
Well, I'm really saddened to hear about the death of Wera Rakeen in Bangladesh. It's a very devastating case that he highlights, as he does here every week, about different cases. The British government is supporting the interim government in Bangladesh as it works to restore peace and order to its country, and we will work closely with them to ensure a peaceful pathway to an inclusive and democratic future. And I'm glad to see that the Honourable Gentleman has been so successful in getting some debates through the Backbench Business Committee and elsewhere on these important matters.
Mike Reader.
Madam Deputy Speaker, tomorrow night, 6 p.m, hundreds of people will take to the streets in Northampton for our Reclaim the Night march. Those types of marches take place across the country and show the national support for this government's mission to halve violence against women and girls. So will the Leader of the House assure me and campaigners that this government will make the suitable amount of government time to make sure this issue is debated and that we continue to push hard to halve violence against women and girls?
Well, I remember as a young woman going on a number of Reclaim the Night marches, and it saddens me really that now, as somebody in my 50s, we still have to have such marches and highlight these issues. But he's absolutely right, it's been raised a number of times here today. The issues around ending violence against women and girls are a massive priority for this government and for the Prime Minister personally, and I will ensure that they're properly debated.
Annalise Midgley.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Tonight I'm off to see China Crisis play at the Knowsley Music Festival in St Chad's Church. It's a great initiative by Knowsley Council, and my constituency has a rich musical heritage. Festivals like these, as well as bringing people together, support local talent and our economy and businesses. So could we have a debate on government time on ways to support and grow local creative festivals and events like these?
Leader.
Well, Knowsley Music Festival sounds like that's going to be a really good night out, and I'm sure my honourable friend will have a great evening there tomorrow as well. And as she knows, this government continues to support the Grassroots Music Fund to help support festivals like the one that she outlines. But yeah, that sounds like a great night out, and I'm glad she shared it with the rest of us.
Andy McNay.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I would like to associate myself with all the warm tributes paid to John Prescott today. He really was an inspiration to so many of us. Madam Deputy Speaker, a great many residents in my constituency rely on bus services, and so I very much welcome this week's statement by the Secretary of State for Transport announcing additional £1 billion of bus funding. This new funding represents a great opportunity for our local authorities to address long-standing gaps in our bus networks. Places like Rosendale and Darwin, these gaps are often where routes cross local authority boundaries. In the past, lack of joined-up thinking has meant these have been the first to be restricted or cut. In my constituency, this has seriously impacted the residents of places like Edgeworth, Bacup and Whitworth. Would my right friend agree with me that to make the most of this new funding, we need transport authorities to work together, thinking beyond their own boundaries, recognising the wider benefits of connecting people, and if necessary, give time to debate this?
Well, yet again, he raises the important issues of transport connectivity in his constituency, which I know well, and it really desperately does need more funding. And he'll remember that over the 14 years of the last government, vital bus services all but disappeared. This new funding is really welcome, but as he says, it needs to come alongside reform so that areas can work together, and we will imminently be bringing forward the bus reform bill where he might want to raise those issues.
John Slinger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Will the Leader join me in congratulating the Hope For charity in Rugby for receiving the King's Award for Voluntary Service? I've seen on numerous visits their incredible work towards ending homelessness and poverty in Rugby through their Hope Centre and the Rugby Food Bank. Would you consider a debate in government time to explore what more support the government can give to volunteer groups and to enable people to volunteer more, given the positive effects on their mental health and on wider society?
Leader.
Well, can I join him in congratulating and thanking the charity and his constituency for all the work that they do to end homelessness in Rugby. He points out the absolutely vital role that volunteers play in supporting our communities, but also the reward and recognition that it brings to them in their volunteering endeavours. And I'm sure it would make a really good topic for a debate.
Mark Stewart.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. One of my constituents, Nikki Allen Dan, has been attending Leeds United games for more than 60 years. Now, Nikki is disabled and uses one of the 7 blue badge coaches that Leeds provide to get to away games. However, Nikki tells me that access for disabled fans across the country, no matter what the league, is shocking. Now, provisions are not being made for those disabled fans. She gave me a few stories at my surgery and loft house. She told me that she's been dropped half a mile from a stadium before and has had to make way to the stadium through traffic in her wheelchair to get there. And she has also been told that she has 8 minutes to leave a stadium to get to a coach that's not even parked in the correct place. Given that Nikki tells me these experiences are typical for disabled fans up and down the country, please can we have a debate in government time on the essential need to make sure that all disabled fans can access and enjoy the beautiful game.
Leader.
Well, in the interest of transparency, Madam Deputy Speaker, and as we were talking about league tables earlier, I just want to put on record that apart from the member for Strangford, the member for Leeds West, Leeds South West and Morley is my top attender at Business Questions, because he is here every week raising really important issues on behalf of his constituents. And can I just say, I'm really appalled to hear of the treatment of the Leeds fan in his constituency. He will know that our football regulator bill is about putting fans back at the heart of football and ensuring that clubs like Leeds United really make sure that disabled fans and every other fans have accessibility to their games.
Douglas McAllister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Tuesday of this week was International Men's Day. In Western Bartonshire, we have wonderful organisations such as Mentor Scotland and the Men's Shed doing incredible work to help men across Western Bartonshire who are struggling with their mental health. Can the Leader of the House arrange for an urgent debate in government time to discuss the work of this government to better support men's mental health and to encourage men to talk more openly about their mental health and well-being, a cause the late Lord Prescott championed?
Well, can I thank him for that? He will know we've got a debate today on, I think, it's shortly, as soon as I finish speaking, on International Men's Day. But he's absolutely right that men's mental health is a serious issue facing this country and is an issue for men. And I hope the debate this afternoon will highlight some of those issues.
Saving the best till last. Paul.
The Rochdale Diversity Awards, now in their 12th year and run by the brilliant Kashmir Youth Project, are taking place this weekend. So will the Leader congratulate all of the nominees who promote not just the rich diversity of our town, but also its community cohesion?
Leader.
Well, the Honourable Gentleman is another very good attender at my business questions, always raising issues facing Rochdale, and I'm pleased to join him, of course, in congratulating all the nominees at his Diversity Awards this year, and he's now put that on record, and I'm sure everyone will appreciate it.
That brings that to a conclusion. Thank you for everybody that participated. We've got close to 50 questions answered today. I'll give the front bench a moment to swap over, quickly and quietly.